Conference Media Days start this week. I'm excited. Can't wait to get there. Maybe it's just me, but I'm kind of getting this vibe like there's a lack of urgency. At least that's the feeling I'm getting from the fan base.
You are Locked On USC, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Right on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Holkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC. It's part of the Locked On Network. I want to thank you for making it your first listen every day. Whether you're watching this show on YouTube, you know you can pick any platform and download this podcast, and however you watch it, wherever you listen, this show's always free. And I always appreciate your support. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Look, whether it's about making the playoffs or keeping the Notre Dame rivalry alive, it kind of feels like there's a lack of urgency with what happens this year. Big Conference Media Days open this week. 3-day event starting Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I'll be there for at least 2 of those days. But for 3 days, starting July 22nd through the 24th, each team is going to put their best foot forward and talk about this year's, and I hate using the word, expectations. So day one, these are the programs that'll be talking. I won't be there for these guys. Really don't care. But anyways, you got Illinois, you have Rutgers, Indiana, Maryland, Nebraska, Ohio State. Out of that schedule, USC will travel to Illinois. We've talked about that game before. We'll talk about it more before it gets here. As well as they also travel to Nebraska. So I do care about those 2 programs. I don't care enough to be there a day earlier. Day 2, you have PJ Fleck, Minnesota, Northwestern, Wisconsin, Oregon, Washington, Penn State. And then day 3, you have Kirk Ferentz with Iowa, Barry Odom at Purdue, Deshaun Foster, UCLA, Jonathan Smith, Michigan State, Lincoln Riley, USC, Sharon Moore, Michigan. USC plays everybody on that day. Well, they won't play the games on that particular day, but everybody on that schedule is on USC's football schedule. So basically from 11:30 to 1 o'clock each day, the coaches will take the stage. Then there's lunch, and then the players that the coaching staff or the programs bring with them, they'll have some one-on-one time sitting at the stage as well. That's after lunch. Speaking of lunch, so last Friday, I went out to lunch with a friend of mine, good friend of mine. This is the friend who stepped up and got me my Dodger tickets when the other person failed. Anyways, so I took him out to lunch, and we were talked about everything about the upcoming season, the quarterback situation, USC's defense, how much better it's going to be compared to last year. And last year was pretty good. Out of conference scheduling, Lincoln Riley, the playoffs, and of course the USC Notre Dame rivalry. I think the part that bothers me the most about the lack of urgency is all the Trojan fans who don't care if this rivalry continues past this season. I guess for whatever reason, I don't know. There's not a huge expectation from USC's 2025 team, at least from the fans. And then when you hear that, and then they start piling on, we don't need to play Notre Dame. We don't need to. If we want to make the playoffs, tell them to join a conference. I'm going to talk more about that here, but I don't understand that. It doesn't make any sense. Anyways, so my friend, whose name my friend Al, he asked me, how many games will USC win this year, Mark? And I said, look, for me, the floor is 9 games. 10 games will get you into the playoffs. We know that. You go 10-2 and your name is USC, and you're playing in the big conference, you're in the playoffs. Because you have Notre Dame on your schedule, even if you lose to them, which hopefully doesn't happen this year, but You understand my point? That when I said 9 is the floor, 10 is the, where everyone should set their finger quotes expectations. That didn't seem to make sense to this person. I was like, really, Mark? You think? But then I broke it down. I used some crayons. I said, look, it's not that hard. USC plays 7 home games. Win your home games. Win 2 on the road, and there's your 9 games. There's your floor. We know who USC plays on the road. Purdue, that's 1 game. Now you're at 8 games. You've won 8 games. Telling me you can't win at Illinois? You can't win at Nebraska? You can't pull one of those? Now you're at 9 games. Maybe you get lucky. Maybe you go into South Bend, you win. Maybe you go up to Eugene and you beat the Ducks. But even if you don't, even if you lose those 2 games, you're still 10-2. 9-3 at worst. If you split between Illinois and Nebraska. So I don't think it's a big request. I don't think it's a big ask. And Trojans win all their home games this year. Simply go 7-0 at home. Find a way to win 2 games on the road. Boom. You're almost there. You've almost made the playoffs. I think a lot of the trepidation amongst the USC fans before we get to big conference media days, it has to do with the quarterback situation. Also, offensive line, especially with the whole DJ Wingfield things. That's kind of in limbo right now. I brought up clock management. Those are the areas where USC needs to improve. So that's understandable. I understand if Trojan fans saying, well, you know what, Mark? The quarterback situation, I'm a little uneasy there. I need to see the offensive line perform. And I want to see if Coach Riley learned anything about clock management. I'm great with that. I'm fine with those bullet points. So again, it's completely understandable. But because the quarterback situation is the way it is, and I have my own reasons that I've alluded to, on previous shows, why I think Coach Riley isn't bringing Jaden Mayava to the conference media day. But for me, I think mostly because I think it's a lack of confidence. I'll just leave it there. Now, at the big conference media days, I'm going to be able to ask a bunch of questions, specifically to Lincoln Riley. Hopefully, I'll be able to squeeze a few in there. And then I just have to kind of read between the lines, with his answers, pick up those kernels of information. And yes, I guarantee you the topic of USC versus Notre Dame will come up. I will force that answer. So the thing that bothers me the most, at least with the fans from that perspective, is that they're willing to settle for mediocrity. I mean, 8 wins? Oh, we'll be okay if we can get to 8 wins. I keep hearing that. As long as Coach Riley goes 8-4 in year number 4, then all the heat will be off of him, because 2026 is the year. What? Really? I keep hearing this from fans. They're trying to justify why 8 wins will be okay. I keep hearing, well, this is really just year 2 because of the defense. In other words, because it took 2 years to fire Alex Grinch, everyone wants to give Coach Riley a mulligan in 2025. I can't get there anymore. I just can't do it. I'm tired of all the excuse making. Really am. I will never settle for less. I don't ask you guys to settle for less. I don't want to settle for less. I'm just hoping that, look, I just hope I don't hear a lot of excuses on media day. I really don't. And I'll say this, if Trojan fans are being honest with themselves, they'll admit that they want more than what they've seen during Coach Riley's first 3 seasons at the helm. So yeah, while winning the Heisman is part of the USC standard, settling and being close to making the playoffs is not. 8 wins is not close to making the playoffs. 9, yeah, you're close. But that's not what it's all about. Winning championships is the standard at USC. And again, while I agree there are different levels of what's considered acceptable, just being happy that USC qualified for the playoffs because they dumbed down the schedule, that seems like setting a different standard. I get it. The offseason for me, it's all about optimism. I know I'm kind of coming off like a curmudgeon right now, but I'm optimistic that I have a higher standard for this program. I think they can do that this year. I don't have to wait until 2026. Because why? Because Jaden Mayava is going to be in his third year in the system if he sticks around. Remember, Husam Longstreet, what about him? Heading into Riley's fourth year, the fans are just hoping that those close losses from 2024, the roster changes, and improving defense, that will make a difference. We all do. We all hope. I do too. But when Coach Riley takes that stage on July 24th around 12:30, my trained ears, my trained eyes, they're going to be laser focused on what Coach has to say. And how it aligns with the fans. Because if I start hearing the echo, the sentiment being echoed the same way, yeah, we'll have a lot to talk about on Locked On USC if that's how it goes. We still have a lot to talk about. We've got 2 more segments to go. In the next segment, talking about the offense, how it needs to return to itself. That'll go a long ways in helping USC reach their standard. And then Monday, we're going to do a Monday Mailbag in that third segment. If you're like me, you probably wish managing your own money was a lot easier. With Monarch Money, it can be. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal chief financial officer. It's going to give you full visibility, total control of your finances. And Monarch Money is more than just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, all of your investments, all of your spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, now you can start building up some wealth. My biggest challenge, managing my spending habits. If I have it, I use it. Monarch Money makes that easier. If I can afford my own personal CFO, so can you. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege, and you're going to get half off your first year. One of the topics that is bound to come up at Media Day is what happened to your offense last year, Coach? You're an offensive genius. That's why USC brought you in. I'm not going to say it like that, but the question is, what happened to the offense? I mean, I think Coach Riley's had at least almost a full year, to kind of reflect, watch some film, obviously build up the roster using the transfer portal, filling in those holes. Here's what everyone needs to remember, okay? Lincoln Riley has been a head coach since 2017. He's now going into his, 8th season as a head coach. So he was the Sooners head coach from 2017 through 2021, and he took over at USC in 2022, and 2025 will be his 4th year as USC's head coach. He's known for high-powered offenses. Throughout his career as a head coach, these are just his head coach numbers. I'm not even going back to his days as an offensive coordinator. As a head coach, in his offenses average 43.2 points per game. No season ranked lower than number 8 in the national scoring offense. So 2017, Oklahoma averaged 45 points per game. 2018, 48. 2019, 42. 2020, 43 points. In 2021, his last year at Oklahoma, 39.1. He shows up to USC with Caleb Williams, 41.4. The following year, where they went 8-5 with Caleb Williams, 41.8. Almost 42 points per game. Last year, That number dropped all the way down to 30.2 points per game. So forget being top 10, top 15, top 20. USC's offense dropped down to the 51st best. There's 136 FBS teams. That is not the standard at USC, period. That's not Lincoln Riley's standard. You'll be the first one to tell you that. But again, that's not good enough. Not when you're trying to win close games, especially on the road. That's why the games are so close, because USC wasn't scoring the amount of points they typically do. Big reason for that was because of the drop-off at the quarterback position. So again, unless that production from at quarterback improves, I don't care who it is, Jaden Mayava, Husan Longstreet, Sam Heward. If the quarterback cannot protect the ball, it's going to be a really long second season. Finger quotes, second season. Lincoln Riley changed his defense. So again, I don't care how much better the defense improves over last year, which in last year was pretty good. The offense has to start doing its part. And on offense, I mean protecting the ball at quarterback. Jaden Mayava has enough to worry about right now, right? He is the presumptive QB1 heading into the first game of the season, Missouri State. By the way, 40 days away. So I don't know. Maybe not coming out to media day is probably prudent. I'm sure he already feels the pressure. No need for him to explain why things will be different in 2025 compared to what he did last year at USC. But again, this is his second year in the system working with Coach Riley. And some of you are, I don't know, maybe forgot. But some of you don't think that Jaden Mayava was around for spring ball last year. He was. Talked about it on the show a lot. So I'll just kind of remind everybody about the timeline. Mayava announced his commitment to USC January 9th, 2024. That was after he went from UNLV, committed to Georgia for a couple of days. He figured it out, committed to USC. He had already signed his letter of intent on January 11th. So I'm not sure why some of you believe that Jaden Mayava wasn't around for spring ball last year. He was there. He had some opportunities to play. He was pushing Miller Moss. Remember? They're very similar quarterbacks. There's not a lot of difference between the two. Lincoln Riley's words, not mine. So I don't know. We all like to point to the positive, right? Jaden went 3-1 as USC starter last year. Okay, that's a positive, absolutely. We like to talk about how well he looked performing against Notre Dame and Texas A&M, two of the better defenses that USC faced last year. Absolutely. Also, let's not forget, in those two games, he might have threw, 7 touchdowns? He also threw 5 interceptions. So, yeah, very inconsistent. You need to have consistency at your quarterback spot. And when you've got somebody who knows how to train and develop quarterbacks like Lincoln Riley knows how to, and you have the good skilled players surrounding your quarterbacks, scoring 30 points should be easy. And I get it, other teams play defense. And I get it, the big conference is a lot different than the Big 12 or the former Pac-12. Nevertheless, 30 points? Look, clean up the quarterback spot. No one wants to wait until the second half of games to see that light come on. The offense is Coach Riley's house, right? Got nobody else to point fingers at. When it does well, he gets heaped a lot of praise, and deservedly so. Last year, it seemed like his quarterbacks took the lion's share of the blame. I've heard fans say, well, you know what? Miller Moss, Jaden Mayava, they weren't the right quarterback for Coach Riley's system. I don't want to hear that excuse, because you're basically saying that Coach Riley needs a system quarterback and that he can't adjust. Well, I don't know if I want a head coach that doesn't know how to adjust, especially when you know what you have coming out of spring camp and fall camp. And you've had one quarterback with you for, 3 years. I'm talking about Miller Moss. So is that the logic everyone wants to go with? Doesn't work for me. Doesn't make sense. Maybe some of you can make it make sense. If the offense stalls 2 years in a row, there's only going to be, like I said, there's going to be one person to point the finger at. It's not going to be the quarterback. If USC's floor is 9 wins, 10 gets you into the playoffs, we need to see how Lincoln Riley can take the offense and make it better from last year. We saw what the defense can do in a year. I anticipate the defense taking a similar leap in year 2 with Antonlynn. So if we're in year 2 with Lincoln Riley because he's got a new defensive coordinator, then shouldn't we, finger quote, expect the offense to make a similar improvement? All right. Hit me up with your comments. Let me know. And if you come up with something good, maybe you'll hear about it on next Monday's Mailbag, because that's what we're going to do in the next segment. Yep, time for Monday's Mailbag. Like I said, 40 days left till USC kicks off against Missouri State, beat the Bears. On that note, one of my everydayers, Brett Curato, sent me a message. Says, Mark, when does fall camp start? Well, here's what I can tell you, Brett. I don't know. I don't have the official start date. Here's what I can tell you. I'll, using last year as my template. So USC started fall camp August 2nd. USC's first game, September 1st. So I'm going to assume July 31st is going to be the first day of practice, because that's going to put them on the same timeline if USC opens their season August 30th, which they do. And you need to be able to squeeze in 25 practices within a 29-day period. So you're allocated 25 practices. So that's the window we're using. July 31st should be the first day of camp. And I don't know why it's being guarded like a state secret. But again, I'm still waiting for the official start date. And just like I'm waiting, guess what? So are the fans. They're waiting for this. Remember how they canceled the spring game? And I think it was Chad Bowden came out and said, yeah, you know what? We're gonna schedule a special event for the fans in the fall. Well, still waiting for that too. Who knows? Maybe it'll be a huge news dump. We find out what day fall camp starts, and they'll within that syllabus, it'll list what the fans are going to be getting during fall camp. Hopefully, it'll be a day where you can all come out to practice. Wouldn't that be cool? Maybe they'll do it inside the Coliseum. Even better. All I know is this: it needs to get here soon, and by what needs to get here, the start of fall camp. All right, here's a message from Cam Life 1. This has to do with with having Jaden Mayava ranked 13th. I think it was that episode, or maybe it was the episode where we were talking about USC's record. Anyways, from Cam Life 1, totally disrespect for SC all around. They see USC as a 6-6 floor team or an 8-4 ceiling, maybe. SC has to play with a chip on their shoulder, hands down. That's it. As an East Coast longtime fan, SC has to show everyone. The loss to Maryland was seriously detrimental for the rep over here in the DMV. Southern Cal has to play it on the line. Southern Cal has to lay it on the line this year. End quote. All right. I agree, Cam. Like, no doubt about it. Okay. That's what I said in the A block of the show. And then in the B block, I said the offense has to show up as well. It has to be more consistent. So you and I, yeah, we're right here. We see this. We see things the same way. And I still am trying to figure out how they lost the game to Maryland as well. It might have been the worst loss of the year. Period. This one's from Nancy Moreau, 3739. Mayava's improvement will be dependent on the offensive line and their ability to protect him and an improved running game that needs to be more emphasized. I also say dump Notre Dame unless they join a conference and USC plays them in September. Otherwise, bye-bye. By the way, the ACC only plays 8 conference games as well. So, Nancy, I agree 100% with the first part of your mail. However, at least partially, I partially disagree with the whole Notre Dame situation. And it has to do with your point about them joining a conference. Let's say they join the ACC full-time. So what? Who cares? That doesn't really affect USC. It's not that difficult of a conference to navigate as it is. And keep in mind, they just signed a huge deal to play Clemson every year. I don't know, was it a 20-year deal? Whatever. It was a 12-year, 20 years? I don't remember off the top of my head. But Clemson has been the jewel of that conference for a while now. So Notre Dame wants to play them every year. They want the tough competition. And the rest of the ACC, it's hot garbage. Yeah, Miami will be competitive because they buy their roster. I respect that. Got no problem with it. They don't shy away from it. Florida State should be good. Again, they recruit the state of Florida. But other than that, what else do you got? Clemson, Notre Dame, Florida State, Miami. And what happens if Notre Dame joins the big conference? Doesn't that make USC's chances to make the playoffs more difficult? I mean, when USC just missed the playoffs in 2022, it wasn't because they played Notre Dame at the end of the year. It was because of Caleb's hamstring against Utah in the conference championship game. Remember, that was a 14 playoff. So let's say they do join the big conference. Then what happens if the big conference decides to schedule USC versus Notre Dame in South Bend in November? Look, I'm fine if you want to play the game early in September. I got no issue with that. But I'm not sure USC holds the cards here. I really don't. Look, I get it. There should be a compromise somewhere. I just don't know why Notre Dame has to join a conference, why that's part of the discussion. Look at their schedule this year. Find me their easy games. Now compare it to USC's schedule. I think people just are looking for excuses. Like when I went to lunch with Al, I said, Al, what's, because he's kind of joined that ship. But everything that came out of his mouth was, I hate Notre Dame, I hate Notre Dame, I hate Notre Dame. I said, Al, it sounds like you hate Notre Dame more than you love USC, and I'm trying to figure this out right now. Anyways, I just don't think anybody is really arguing in a straight line. They're kind of zigzagging, trying to make it fit their argument. USC has 11 national championships. Notre Dame was never an issue then. USC has always played a full slate of conference games, whether it was 8 games in the Pac-8 or 7, 9 when it was the Pac-10, 9 when it was the Pac-12, 9 when they joined the big conference. And not every game is equal to the other. So let's stop with USC's schedule is more difficult because they play 9 conference games. Stop it. All right, last one. This one comes from Frosty Mug. I assume he's an Oregon fan. He said, Oregon's quarterback is ranked higher because Oregon's quarterback has a full year in the system under a quarterback coach who has turned 2 okay quarterbacks into Heisman candidates with record-setting completion percentages. Oregon also has one of the best O-lines, tight ends, running back rooms, and receivers in the country. I think USC will be better this year. I also think most, if not all, Big Ten teams will be improved this year. I could see a similar win-loss result for USC as they did in 2024, unless they get some breaks. Again, this is where ignorance, naivete comes into play. Frosty Mug, assuming you're an Oregon fan, Jaden Mayava was at spring camp for USC in 2024. 2025 would have been his second spring camp. And as far as you have a guy who has turned two okay quarterbacks into Heisman candidates, USC's coach has how many Heisman awards? Stop it. And yeah, Oregon has a tight end, but they only have one wide receiver. Your lead running back, you just brought him in out of the transfer portal. Look, I get you're an Oregon fan, but stop with the fantasizing, please. Anyways, that's it for this episode. I'm already going overtime. My back is killing me. But I will be back with another episode tomorrow, one day before I head out for big conference media days. We'll see what's going on. We'll see if any news comes down. Whatever comes down, you're going to hear about it here on Locked on USC. So until the next episode, everyone, you know what to do.